Several months ago in this show, we broke the story of Tony Podesta's lobbying for Ukraine. Podesta, of course, is the founder of the now defunct Podesta Group, which for years was one of the biggest Democratic firms in Washington. He's also the brother of Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta. He's also a close friend and a major fundraiser for Bill and Hillary Clinton. Now, the Podesta Group, we reported, worked with Paul Manafort to lobby on behalf of Ukrainian interests in the United States without properly registering at the time under the Foreign Agent Registration Act, which is called FARA. Manafort got in big trouble for that. He's now being held in solitary confinement. He's looking at a life sentence behind bars. And Tony Podesta? Whatever happened to him? Well, tonight we can report exclusively, based on two separate sources we spoke to today, that Tony Podesta has been offered immunity by Robert Mueller to testify against Paul Manafort. In other words, for a near-identical crime, Bill and Hillary's friend could skate and emerge completely unscathed, while Paul Manafort may rot in jail. Only one of them made the mistake of chairing Donald Trump's presidential campaign.
In the Hillary Clinton probe, they gave out 5 sets of immunity and got nothing for it. And now here we're hearing reports that Tony Podesta is getting immunity. When do you use it? When's it appropriate?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. Really, the first and foremost one, as you would think it might be, is if the person you're dealing with has committed a crime. If they haven't committed a crime, or you don't think they've committed a crime, they have nothing to be immune from. So clearly, Podesta is thought of by the Mueller team to have engaged in some kind of conduct that he needs immunity from. That's the first and foremost thing. The second thing is you feel that he has some information that he could give you on some of the people that are targets from in your investigation, which means only that he must have dealt with them either in a criminal conspiracy or in criminal matters that relate to Mueller's investigation. So there's two things. They must think that Podesta did something illegal and that illegal activity or some activity that he engaged in was connected to the probe going on, because that's how criminal conspiracies work. Guys get together to commit crimes. So Podesta, really, this immunity deal to me puts Podesta right in the middle of this thing.
This is very clearly partisan. Tony Podesta didn't just represent the Ukrainians and didn't register for them. He actually registered for Uranium One and Rosatom. He represented Sberbank, which is, that's like representing directly Vladimir Putin. Sberbank is Vladimir Putin's hip pocket bank. From my perspective, they're probably giving him immunity, not just because he can do something to hurt Paul Manafort, because they certainly don't want him talking about Uranium One and Sberbank. If there was somebody in Washington representing the Russians in 2016, it was Tony Podesta.
You saw what happened in the Hillary Clinton probe, but then, 5 sets of immunity, and the FBI admitted we got nothing for that in exchange. Have you ever seen that? If the FBI ever have any other case where they handed out 5 sets of immunity, got nothing for it?
To hand out so many immunities is unusual, and to get nothing for it. I think the lesson we're seeing here is if you're going to commit a crime, it pays to have a relative who's in high political office so that you can be the one offered immunity.
The Mueller investigation has now reached a level of debasement akin to the 9th level of hell in Dante's Inferno. It also means that if you're a Democrat, you get a pass. There are 2 standards of justice in this town being carried out by the Department of Justice under both administrations and the FBI under both administrations. The FBI and the DOJ under Obama gave Hillary Clinton a pass. They ignored criminal violations and found her innocent when, in fact, she had violated the law. They immunized her lawyers. They immunized her staff. They immunized the people who bleached her computer. All of them were Democrats. And now in the prosecution of Paul Manafort, who do they immunize first? The person who broke the law, just like allegedly Paul Manafort did, helped the Russians, helped some phony Ukrainians. And what does Bob Mueller do first? He immunizes a guilty Democrat.
Maybe the most amazing is the pretext under which all of this is happening. The FARA law was passed back in 1938 in order to prevent the Nazi government from lobbying in the U.S. Over a 50-year period, from 1966 to 2015, a total of only 7 people were criminally charged under FARA. Many more could have been charged. Washington is brimming with unregistered foreign agents and has been for decades. And yet only 7 people were charged over 50 years. And yet in recent months, 3 people have been charged under FARA. What do they have in common? You guessed it, some connection to Donald Trump. Federal laws ought to be enforced. Unlike the left, we actually believe that. But they must be enforced equally, or they're not laws at all. They're political cudgels and tools of social control. They become illegitimate and scary. In this case, ought to make you nervous.